I love my title. I am a tech adjacent psychotherapist. I have my own practice. I have 21 years of dealing with most aspects of mental health. I am a neurolinguistic practitioner and a cognitive behavior therapy. I also work with addiction and bereavement. And given the fact that I'm married to an IT nerd, the past few years I found myself working increasingly within the IT industry. I'm passionate about bringing non-tech into a very tech industry. I'm already 7 conferences down this year because people need to understand how to deal with mental health, all aspects of it. And your industry is not great. So I am very lucky. I live in the beautiful countryside in the south of England, and my therapists all have 4 legs, all of them, because they're far better than 2-legged ones. They all have a watertight NDA and will listen to me as long as I feed them. So let's start by looking at what burnout is, because as often happens when something becomes buzzwordy, the reality of it starts to get lost in the haze. So burnout is unique to every single person, can be really difficult to define and difficult to self-identify. And I hope by the end of this session you have taken away some very common sense, quite cliched pointers to help you to be able to do that for yourselves and for the people around you. We have to remember, and this has got a bit lost, that burnout is particular to the workplace. It is not a home environment existence. It starts and is caused by the environment you're working in. It obviously then affects your home life, but we have to look at it as a recognized part of the work environment. So the description of it has got a bit cloudy, so we're going to look at that as well, and we'll hopefully come out of this with a clearer understanding of what it is and how we work around it. So we're going to be cliched. I can't help that, because all of the things that I'm going to point out should be relatively straightforward, should be things that we remember. And as is often the case in an industry full of very intelligent people, we'll look at the far more complicated options before we look at the most straightforward thing that we should be looking at. Tracy, you get this one? Absolutely. So when I want to talk to you about emotional exhaustion and talk about a complete inability to function, to do the things that you need to do to exist in your normal day. So this is not just being a bit tired. This is being absolutely wiped out.
I will point out you're not advancing your slides.
Are we not on emotional exhaustion? Because they're changing on my screen.
They're not changing over here.
Right.
You told me to let you know.
Absolutely. That's what I said. You are in charge of my techness.
I think I just advanced it.
Yeah, we can advance it, but it's not advancing automatically. Now we're on what is burnout.
So we've done that one. And I'll just do this and you can read my notes if you like. It's because I have it actually running in the background on PowerPoint and running in Teams.
Oh, yeah. If you're running in Teams, you got to do like weird stuff to get it to go forward. You got to click it in Teams.
I think it's actually that Teams defaulted to like you're being able to do it, and you can click the button that says sync with the presenter, because now it's fine. So I think it's our end, not your end, Tracy.
No, it wasn't advancing.
No, I did sync with presenter and it took me back to the first slide. Now it says emotional exhaustion.
Okay.
All right. So you're not seeing what I'm seeing then, because I have my presenter slide on. That's okay. That's cool. This is why I need tech people around me to do the tech bit. I'm good with the mental health, not so good with the tech. So when we talk about emotional exhaustion, and Tracy and I have just been talking about this is not you're a bit tired because you've worked a lot of hours. This is something way, way more than that. And it's difficult in an industry that is so busy and where we find ourselves just constantly having to keep up. It's never easy to recognize in ourselves that we're not just tired, we are done. We have 0% left in the battery. We have no bandwidth for dealing with anything. Emotional exhaustion and physical fatigue come hand in hand. Physical fatigue is not just being a bit tired. It is being so completely destroyed that you can't get out of bed in the morning. Talking to people, dealing with work just becomes nigh on impossible. Depersonalization is one that, being virtual, working from home, not having those water cooler moments in the workplace, this has become a really big marker. So the recognized markers by psychotherapy associations in the UK put depersonalization as their second marker, because some of us are old and cynical anyway, but I've earned the right to be old and cynical by being old. When it starts to be something that you're bringing into your workplace, when you were previously invested and you've got to a point where you are unfeeling, you're impersonal, you have an attitude towards others that's not deliberately nasty, but you just don't have the bandwidth to be nice to people. This isn't just going to destroy you at work, this is going to destroy you at home, but it's also going to start to destroy your self-image and your relationships and your friends. And this one is a real toughie to spot, because we do it gradually and we do it as a coping mechanism. And a lot of us will tell ourselves that we're really good at putting the mask on to go to work because there's stuff going on, but we don't want to take it into work. That mask very quickly becomes depersonalization, and this is a lot harder to come back from, especially when you put it as a cumulative effect and you're already exhausted. This follows naturally, and none of this is imposter syndrome. This is very much about a comparison to your previous self. So when you're finding that the stuff you're doing at work, you're just not achieving what you achieved before, that you suddenly feel that you're the least effective in the office, that lack of success starts to become notable. This one you have to see in yourself, because invariably the only person who's going to pull you up on this is going to be a manager of some description. And if you get to the point where that's happening, it's probably far enough that you need some outside help to come out of it. It's difficult to see in other people as well, because sometimes we do just see people having a bit of a crisis of confidence, and imposter syndrome is rife in the IT industry anyway. So this one is a really important one to ask yourself about on a regular basis. So when I said at the beginning that I'm going to come up with cliches, I'm going to come up with the most cliched things you can think about. But the fact that they're cliched and obvious generally means that we overlook them, because it's such a horrible place to be. Looking at burnout and going, well, there's some relatively simple ways out of it, just doesn't seem to sit well with us. We feel that we should have something more complex to do to start to pull ourselves out of this. We have to understand that since burnout affects every part of us, the fix has to be holistic as well. And it's never going to be a quick fix. Keeping open communication with everyone that we're involved with is the most important thing we can do, because people in your team, your peers, your family, your friends, your managers will work better with you if they understand that you have something that is going on, but you are addressing it. Far better than if you just keep trying to pretend everything's okay. We're going to look at physical, emotional, and mental well-being, because these are the ways that we start to strengthen ourselves to come out of this burnout. And it's a cliche, and I'm sorry, and I had to put somebody on a bike because putting someone on a horse probably appealed to less people. But regular exercise really helps. And I don't mean that you need to be running a marathon or cycling 20 miles. Literally just going out for a walk outside, touching the grass, touching the trees, being away from your screens, doing something that is physical, that raises your heart rate, that gives you a dopamine kick, that isn't dependent on what you're doing within your work environment. It doesn't need to be, huge exercise, but regular. I'm lucky I have horses, so I have to march around 7 acres of field picking up horse poo every day, and I cycle. And two things like that take us away from screens, away from people, away from the stress. They work for us. For you guys, it's always going to be something different. I have somebody who crochets, and she has a crochet bag that she carries everywhere with her because she'll crochet as she walks. That's her exercise. That's her time when she realizes that she needs to stop. So cliched, but vitally important. Sorry, again, and I hate to do this because this one sucks. And as a woman in the tech industry, I hate this. The tech industry for dietary requirements is in the top 5 worst diets in a national study done in America 2 years ago. The IT industry is only just beaten by firefighters, paramedics, and doctors. And that's not a good crowd to be in. We are very, very good at thriving on caffeine and sugar highs, and that gives us a horrific roller coaster. We're all very good at eating at our desk. We're all very good at, I need to be working and having a meeting with the other side of America, so I'll be up 3 hours later tonight. So I'll just have a bag of crisps while I work. We're really good at that. And unfortunately, you can't repair your physical self or therefore your mental self if you're not fueling your body properly. And it's dull, and we've all heard it, and we all know we should be eating fruit and veg. But I had a wonderful person, a dietitian, who spoke for me at Sequel Bits last year, and she pointed out that if all we change is that we cut out one ultra processed food every day, and if we add lettuce because it has some chemical in it, if we eat lettuce before we eat our McDonald's burger or our fish and chips or whatever crap we're eating, we're actually helping ourselves way more because of the way our digestive system works. So maintaining a healthy, balanced diet with lots of nutrition is dull, but it's something that we really should look at. And there's no easy answer to how to feed yourself when you're at a desk all day, but it's something that we should be taking the time to do. We don't get in our car and expect it to keep driving if we don't put fuel in it, but we do it with ourselves. So obvious, but vitally important. And again, I'm sorry, it's a cliche, but finding something that feeds your soul, because once you start to hit burnout, everything takes away from you. Everything drains you. It drains your energy. It drains your coping mechanisms. It drains your ability to function. Finding something that feeds your soul is so important. It's so important. And it can be a solitary hobby. It can be going to sitting and reading in a quiet corner for an hour. If that feeds your soul, that's something that you should be looking to be able to do. If it's gardening or painting or going and joining the local line dancing club, anything that gives you pleasure for the sake of doing it, it has so much value. It is impossible to stress how important this is. And I have to also say at this point that I understand that for a lot of you, your work and your hobby have a very, very fine line between the two of them. I am married to someone who has spent so many years automating the crap out of my house because it's something that feeds his soul, and he really loves the challenge of working with Home Assistant and getting Alexa to tell me the washing machine's finished and having an automation that turns the lights on and off as I walk through the house. It drives me insane. But we had to say that to make a difference between I am in the office working, and we're lucky we have a garden office. That's work. If he's coding whatever the latest thing Alexa's supposed to tell me about in the house, or making the doorbell ring in the garden so I don't miss somebody because I happened to mention that that was a thing. The understanding was he does all of that on a laptop and he does it in the living room. So there's his point of difference. But I also drag him out to go cycling and picking up horse poo. So something that feeds your soul, something that you don't rely on other people for, and something that takes you away from the very thing that's causing you to be stressed, that's causing the burnout, is so important. And it's really difficult because if you're completely burnt out and you're exhausted and your people coping mechanisms are at an all-time low, it might need to start with just being something, going and sit and reading in a quiet corner, and build up to something that really feeds your soul, that takes you away from that constant treadmill of work. Sorry, Tracy. I'm really sorry. It's common sense, and we know, and it's a cliche, and not sleeping enough is going to destroy our mental health. Our brain needs that downtime. It needs to be able to do that data dump. It needs to be able to reprocess all the files in the database and mirror them and put them in the right lake house or bird house or wherever it puts it. Our brain has to be able to do that. And if we don't sleep, we don't get a chance to do that. And one night of staying up late, having a couple of hours sleep, being back in the office it's not going to hurt anybody. The older you get, the more you realize that pulling all-nighters is not a good thing. But when it's a constant cumulative lack of sleep, your capacity to do anything, your capacity to exist starts to crash, and it crashes really quite catastrophically. So sleep has to be something that we look at, and sleep has to be something that doesn't include screens, that we take downtime for, that we make a priority. So if we're not sleeping, it's something we have to look at. And even the most stressed of us can find a way around not sleeping, whether it's melatonin, whether it's Xanax, whether it's sleeping pills, whether it's a glass of whiskey. None of those are recommended as long-term fixes, but just being able to get 5 or 6 hours of solid sleep will restore so much of our coping mechanisms that like one night's sleep really, really will start to make a difference. Conversely, burnout can leave you where you sleep too much, where you just do not have the capacity to get up, where pulling the duvet over your head in the morning and going back to sleep for another 6 hours is the only thing that you can do. As a one-off, as an odd occasion, that's fine. If that starts to be an issue, that's a big red flag. And this one is my dippy hippie slide, because as daft as it is, simple techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, just taking some time to look after ourselves. Give me 1 second, because otherwise the tractor driver is going to knock down my front door. Okay, be safe. Cheers. I am so sorry, ladies. Unfortunately, when you live in the middle of nowhere and people appear outside, we all have a mobile phone, we all have a computer, we can all access a 5-minute breathing exercise. And even though it still sounds a bit dippy hippie, just being able to sit for 5 minutes quietly and focus on our breathing, can reduce stress, can boost dopamine, can actually put us in a place where we start to be able to cope better with what's going on. So I'm going to do 10 minutes or so of the way that we should look at teams within the environment that we work, but the same rules apply to in our personal lives. So we can start to look at how not to hit burnout in the first place. And the people at work are people we interact with probably more than the people in our personal lives. So most of these rules apply both ways around, but this is specific to the workplace. So I'm afraid there will be one bit of buzzwords because it just fits what is now considered to be best practice to produce a positively dynamic team. But to produce one, we need to know what it looks like. So we have to accept that when you put a random group of people together and try to make them into a team, they're not going to automatically become a team, because we're all unique individuals. We've all got our own skills, experiences, beliefs, cultural differences, language differences. Goes without saying, we're not going to like each other all of the time because we're people, and because people do peopling and they annoy us. And you don't choose your workmates. You don't choose the people who you're in a team with. So accepting that we're not all going to be friends all of the time is important. And we're not going to agree with each other all the time. That's a dynamic part of a team if it's used positively, but it can destroy a team just as quickly if it's not managed well. This is the biggest cause of people starting to spiral in the workplace. And it's obvious and everybody understands it. People forget about it very quickly. So if you're expecting a huge project completed in an unreasonably short time frame, that's an unrealistic expectation. People will not be able to do it. And you will hit a point where people stop trying because you've set an impossible target. If it's possible, we can all work towards it. But if we know that you're being asked to put a week's worth of work into 2 days, you know it's not going to happen. And it's human nature to just stop trying, because what's the point? And if we're already tired and the team dynamics is not amazing, we're not going to want to try. So we need to look at how we manage those expectations. Always on availability is my pet peeve with your industry, because it is 24/7 and you do on call and you have stuff going on in the night and databases break at 3 a.m. because that's what they do. But you cannot maintain always on availability. You have to have downtime, because otherwise you will burn out. This one's tough because coding has to be right. Architecture has to be right. Databases have to be right. There's no grey area in your industry. It's very black and white. But we all make mistakes. And the best architect, the best coders, the best whatevers will still make mistakes. And when we demand perfection from ourselves and from those around us, and management expect it, it's unrealistic, and we will stop trying because we can't not make mistakes. If you come into work on Monday and the project that you thought had a month left to run suddenly now has 2 weeks left to run, again, it's common sense that suddenly when you're faced with doing twice as much work in half as much time and you're already tired, you're just not going to do it, or you're going to try and do it and it will be at the expense of your mental health, because constantly trying to achieve a goal that constantly moves becomes impossible, and we stop trying because that's our default. So this one seems really obvious, because agreeing terms and expectations is something that we think we all do, because nobody starts a new job without a job description and how much you're going to get paid and how many hours you're expected to work and what your job responsibilities are. So you agree terms and expectations. We can achieve those. As humans, we're pretty good at that. If we know what we are expected to do, we will strive to do that. If you don't have a defined goal, if you don't have a defined expectation, you're in a position where you can never succeed. So if you're in a management role, you need to give your team expectations that are achievable. And if you're working in a role within a team and the expectations are unreasonable, you have to start to speak out, because the whole team should be set up to succeed. So terms and expectations are what we use to produce that success. And it seems obvious. People overlook this as a step towards a dynamic team because it doesn't have a monetary value to the stakeholder. Similarly, this one, if you don't have boundaries, and this one sadly affects women in tech far more than men, and that's sad, and I hate that it is still a thing, but it's still a thing, that women feel that they have to say yes to so much more work. Men are not good at it, but they are better at saying no. For women who still feel that they need to work harder than the man doing the same job, when you're asked to stay until 10 o'clock at night to catch up with that thing, when you're asked if you can please go to that meeting at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, when you're asked to do that extra bit, sadly, we're still in a position where a lot of women will say yes because they feel they have to. It's really difficult to say no. It gets easier once you start doing it. You have do not disturb features. You have the ability to schedule stuff, but you also have the ability to just say, I've blocked out my calendar between 12 and 2 tomorrow. I am not available. I have a thing. It's a personal thing. I am drawing a line. Similarly, that whole sort of grey area between, could you just check your emails this evening? There might be an important one from that client. The answer to that is no, unless you're being paid to check your emails in the evening. The answer to that is no. The boundary between work and home life, the boundary between checking those emails and not checking them, has to be made clear. And if management are not clarifying that or respecting it, then it's something that we need to do to protect ourselves. It feels scary and it feels dangerous and it feels difficult the first few times you say no to something that's asked of you. It gets easier and it gives you quite a quick feeling of, okay, I did something to look after myself, and the reward is fairly instant, and it becomes easier and easier each time. And bizarrely, and I work with a lot of C-level management, this is just an irony, I think. The more you say no, the less likely they are to try and push, because they suddenly start to respect the fact that, oh no, we won't ask Traci to do that because we know she's been on call overnight and she's tired, and she's said no in the past. C-level management weirdly respect us saying no more than we think they ever will. So it's something we should do. And if you're in an environment where saying no is not respected, you need to be looking to be in a different environment. This one's, again, nice and easy, nice and obvious, but it's something that breaks down very, very quickly in a dysfunctional team or with people who are starting to burn out. Because if you don't have the energy for yourself, you don't have the energy to communicate with anyone around you. If you're not communicating, you're losing the engagement, the innovation, the productivity, the trust. If you're not communicating with the people around you, they're not feeding you either. So working out a way of being able to talk that overcomes language, that overcomes cultural differences, that gives us the ability to be able to sit there and say, I am absolutely exhausted. I'm not concentrating. I haven't heard anything that anybody said in this meeting for the last hour. I'm going to take some time for myself and I need to stop. That sort of communication makes a world of difference within an environment. It also gives us the courage to be able to talk. And I think something that we've lost a lot post-COVID has been that ability to just communicate with people. We can't schedule an organic Teams meeting to just have a natural chat because that's not how human nature works. But actually being able to have a line of communication with the people around you that's open and needs no precursor is so important. One of the companies I work for introduced, and they thought this was wonderful, we've got a WhatsApp chat. And it's like, yeah, most of us have had those going on for years. But what they've done is open this WhatsApp chat and it is completely confidential. You can talk to anyone about anything in it, but it's there and it's open. And they use it every day to just say hi to everyone. And it's really simple and it takes seconds. But it's a line of communication that everyone has started to feel comfortable using. It took a while. It wasn't an instant fix. But all of a sudden, it was something a little bit more informal than talking on Teams or work emails or whatever. We can all make an effort to have an open line of communication with the people around us. It just takes a little bit of thought. And once it's open and we keep it open, it will make the world a difference. This one's huge. C-level and management hate this because they don't understand it for the most part. And I've had a stand-up argument with the manager of a big team in a big tech company in America who still doesn't get this. Does not understand why I should say to Traci, I'm picking on you, Traci, because I know I can. You've been on call and it's brilliant.
It's
and
okay.
You've done you've been on call, you've done some brilliant work. I know you're tired and I really appreciate it. That's very cool. Because this manager doesn't understand that that's not just you doing your job. You've done your job, absolutely. But for the time it takes to recognize that, the morale that it builds, the teamwork it builds, the overall organizational success it builds is exponential. This person cannot get it. But you're paid to do this. This is your job. You are paid to do this thing. Why should I tell you you've done your job well? Because look at your team and look at why I'm here working with your team, and that should answer your question. It takes 2 minutes. And we can do it in a multitude of different ways. I have one client who leaves sticky notes on people's monitors when they come in a hot desk that just says, that thing you did last week was awesome. Or that brings it up in a huddle in the morning in a Teams meeting, goes, yeah, Traci, you were a diamond last night. And everyone just understands she was awesome. Because it takes seconds to do it. And we can all do it. We can all big up somebody around us for doing something that's not special, that's not going over and above, but that just by recognizing we make important. I told you there was going to be a buzzword and I apologize for it. This is leveraging intrinsic motivators is something that has been recognized for a lot of years. And it's straight out of the management buzzword dictionary. Yeah, we're going to leverage some intrinsic motivators. What does that mean? The component parts of it are there are 3, and they're not complex and they're not difficult to remember. So I don't expect anyone to maintain that title in their head because it's bullshit. The first part of this is massive. And this works within teams, with teams who have neurodiversity within them, with teams that have different skill sets. that have different people, that have people who thrive in the morning or in the afternoon, who work at 3 a.m. If you start to give the people around you, or you tell your management that you need the autonomy and the freedom to make decisions about your work, this gives a sense of ownership and responsibility that nothing else in our work environment will ever give. As management, as team, project managers, as team leaders, giving someone complete control not only tells them that you trust their abilities to do their job, but to do it at times and in ways that work best for them. It's also saying that actually this team is full of different people with very different skills, experiences, techniques for working. But if you actually own it, if everyone owns it and you have that control over your time, the way you work, it starts to breed a healthy team. And those differences are things that mean that sitting at your desk from 9 till 5 is just not a natural picture for most people, and particularly working from home. Autonomy is huge and makes a whole world of difference. Mastery, it sounds quite old-fashioned, and given the title of this about the fire hose and the fact that so much new information is coming at you constantly, being able to be an expert at the things you need to be expert at is becoming more and more difficult. Microsoft's bringing out all their new certifications. There's this constant feeling that we should be getting them, we should be doing this. We need to know about AI, we need to know how Claude works, we need to know all these new things. The thing is, we don't. Generally, we do not need to know about all of these new things and all of this that's coming at us so quickly. So finding the time to become a master of the things that you need to know, whether as a manager you're encouraging this in your team, you're giving opportunities for training, mentorship, whatever, or as somebody who's taking control of it for yourself, giving yourself the opportunity to support your own growth is also massively confidence building. Mastery is probably one of the big reasons why I am so passionate about user groups, about data Saturdays, about conferences, because you don't know what you don't know until you're around a group of other people who know different things. That growth starts to become infectious when you're around other people. User groups are the best place for this, and I will fight anybody who tells me they're not. And this one, again, is difficult to get across because it sounds a bit wishy-washy. Finding a purpose in your work, and management go, well, there's a purpose, it's finishing the project by the deadline and under budget. That's not a purpose, that's a job description. That's a project description. That's the goal that we're working for. That's not a purpose. Finding a purpose within what you do sounds complicated, because my purpose is to get to Friday without punching stupid people and get paid. It's not really that positive. For some people, that is the purpose. I know people who have that on wall stickers. Communicating the impact of your work, finding a way that makes your work about more than just the component parts of your team, the component parts of your job. Finding a success in what it is that you're providing, rather than just the stakeholders happy because we delivered this, starts to be something that it's infectious. And when we start to get good at it, we start to share it amongst ourselves, and it will turn a team on its head. It will start to turn people back from that burnout, because having a purpose suddenly changes our life. It changes going to work, because we're not just going to work to get to Friday and pick up a paycheck. And some of the big companies utilize this and have done a lot. So this intrinsic motivation, the autonomy, the mastery. Google, a big enough company that they could give their employees 5% of their time to work on something completely of their own within work time, which gave them autonomy because they were able to control their time, but also to use some of their work time for something else. A lot of people found mastery in it because they were allowed to experiment, they were allowed to follow weird and wonderful ideas. And the purpose started to evolve because people realized that they could make things that would change the world. And the biggest thing that came from that is Google Mail. But for this, Google Mail would not exist. Google Mail was created by someone using their 5% time at work to do something that was not their job. They had autonomy over the use of that time. Google are quite pleased that they did that, oddly enough. So positive dynamics at work and at home and for ourselves. This is a structure that we can use for ourselves. Agreeing terms and expectations, that's across the board. Your relationship with other human beings will all be based on those terms and expectations. Setting boundaries is vital, personal life as well as work, because if we have no boundaries, people will take advantage. We will give more than we're capable of giving, and we will destroy ourselves. Open communication is so obvious, but so vital, because if you're talking to people comfortably about not just the job or the work, but, oh yeah, I'm going out to lunch with the in-laws on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to that. Just having conversations about stuff outside of the workplace that are comfortable, that are built into your day, starts to make it so that if you are starting to feel overwhelmed, that if shit really is getting real, that communication is already there. It's really, really difficult to start new communication when you're already on the way down into burnout. Recognizing efforts as contributions is huge, and we can all do it with everyone. I'm absolutely at this point going to pick on Traci again because I can, and say, I know how bloody difficult it is to be on call, to not sleep, to be working nights. So recognizing that Traci has just done those god awful hours and come through it, I think that's massive. And I think that's something that should be praised because it's tough. I have the bearded husband who has managed today to be a grown-up and get himself on a train to London, to Wembley Stadium, and work and communicate and do some very grown-up things, which he's not used to doing because he has turned into a hermit. And I have recognized those by totally not sarcastically sending him a message going, well done, you will remember to have something to eat. And you did put clean pants on, didn't you? So I've recognized his efforts. Leveraging intrinsic motivators, as I've said, is not something anyone needs to remember. But the three big points within it are things we should all be looking at because they affect every part of our life. They affect our work-life balance. They affect our ability to do our job. They affect our ability to value ourselves as a person. They matter. I can't do a session without saying, I'm really sorry, but we do have to talk about mental health because we do. Burnout is only just being recognised and categorised as a mental health issue, which to my mind is like 10 years too late. I hope that you all work for places that provide mental health resources, that give you mental health days. I know Redgate are very, very proud of this, and rightly so, that there are a number of duvet days every year, and you can take them as and when, and you don't need to reason, you literally just get to say, I am taking a duvet day. That is worth its weight in gold. but also normalizing conversations about mental health is still something that I'm going to fight for. I still deliver the mental health conversations session at conferences. I still have people coming up and saying, I didn't know this. I didn't realize it was this straightforward. I thought I'd make it worse. So normalizing mental health conversations is vital. I can't stress that enough. Men particularly aren't very good at it, but women in IT are also not very good at it. It matters. And if we can talk about those things openly without worrying about it being a sign of weakness or something that, will halt our career progression, that will make me very happy. I use the broken leg thing because it's a perfect analogy. Not a single person on this call will worry about having a conversation with someone who they see who has a cast on the leg, because it's obvious. And you'll have a conversation that goes, oh my God, what did you do? How did you do it? What have you broken? How long will the cast be on for? What will happen afterwards? Will you need to do physio? When will you be able to run again properly? Nobody will think twice about going, well, you have my desk because it's downstairs and I'll bring your coffee over. I'll help you take stuff out your car. We would all do those things without a second thought. And even when the cast is gone, we'll still carry on because we know a limb was broken, it is healing. As far as I'm concerned, mental health issues, still invisible, should be no different to the broken leg thing. And I will be shouting about that till they carry me off. Talking about mental health within the work environment is vital. So I hope that you're going to take away some very cliched, very obvious things that you'll all have known about. Probably most of you won't have done, even though you've known about them. And you will now be going, yeah, okay, I suppose I should probably not eat all of that chocolate in one go. Or I should probably not have 7 cups of coffee before I can get through the huddle in the morning. Or I should maybe go outside once a week. But take away from this that burnout is real. It is specific to the workplace. And it is cumulative, and it builds and it builds. And if we can stop it in its tracks, coming back out of it is so much easier than waiting until you get to that rock bottom and then trying to come back out of it. If you can see it in other people around you, have that line of communication so that you can pass this on, so that you can say, Traci, we've worked together for ages and I've known you for years. I can't help but notice that you're not doing so well. Is there anything I can do? Do you want to talk? Or do you want me to mind my own business and go away? But just being able to have that conversation with another person will start to make a difference. Now, it's not rocket science. It's really not. Nothing is new. You know all of this. This is just a reminder to use the tools you already possess. And yes, she is a rocket scientist, and yes, she did put the men on the moon. And yes, that is all of that is the code and the computer stuff that put the rocket on the moon 50 years ago. It's not complicated, but it is something that we as humans and as women are very, very good at overlooking. Now, I don't have a slide for this last bit before we finish, because this is A, relatively new, and B, I haven't come up with a slide that I think is suitable yet, because in the UK in the last 3 months, our governing bodies, the psychiatry, psychology, have now introduced a 4th marker for burnout, and it's called menopause masking. And it's so long overdue. This was brought about by somebody, a lovely lady on LinkedIn, who posted a thread October last year where she just had a rant on LinkedIn, and she literally data dumped. I am fed up with this. I am tired of this. I am menopausal. I am going into work. Not only am I having to deal with all of the work environment things, I'm also having to try and pretend I'm not having a hot flush. I'm having to try and pretend that my brain hasn't turned to blancmange and I've forgotten everything I've ever known. I'm having to pretend that I actually got some sleep last night and I know what's going on. I'm having to pretend that I'm not going through something that is 100% natural and affects 50% of the population. She did it as a rant, as a way of getting all of this out. It was picked up on and it went viral because everybody, without exception in our industry, looked at it and went, oh my God, why has nobody pointed this out? The IT industry is a little behind because you are still very male heavy. It's getting better, but actually, this still affects the men in the room just as much as the women. And the last time I delivered this session to a full auditorium, I could pick out the men who were young, not yet married, but had a mother who was menopausal. The slightly older men who were married and had a mother or a mother-in-law who was menopausal. The men whose wives were menopausal because they all just went, oh God, yes, get all of this instantly. Or even the women themselves who hadn't realized how much they were having to put into masking something that is 100% natural, and it's also a little bit inevitable for most of us. So this one is new and doesn't have a slide yet, but it is part of this session because it is just as important as the other things that we recognize. So if you're seeing that, if you're feeling it, or if you're aware that it's an issue, it's time to start speaking out about that, because as women, we shouldn't have to mask something we have no control over that we will all go through. That one, I hope the message for that is going to start getting out, because Backup have introduced that. The governing bodies in the UK have introduced that very, very quietly. There's no song and dance about it. So that's something I think that we should all be making sure that we share. So it is that we live in a world where change is constant. The speed of change these days is ridiculous. AI is coming to take all of our jobs. We know this. We feel like we have got to constantly be competing, got to be better. We've got to know about all of these new things. We've got to be doing all of our job, all of our personal life, all of our friends, all of our family. We've got to do all of those things, but then we've got to do some more as well. And that fire hose is going to destroy us if we let it. So know what you know and know that it's good enough. If there's stuff that you don't know that you need to learn, give yourself time and permission to learn one thing at a time. Concentrate, focus, and don't overcommit to it. AI and new products just coming out almost by the day, and it's changing and it's different and it's cutting edge, and everybody needs AI. They just don't quite understand why they need it, or that it's not the quick fix that they think it is. Stick with what you know, but above all of that, put you first, because if you're putting your job first, or your manager, or your team, or your family, or your friends, or your co-workers, you're going to destroy yourself in the process. If you don't look after yourself first, you are going to be no use to all of those people around you. So a little bit of positive selfishness, a little bit of self-care, and a lot of permission to not be okay all of the time. And we can hopefully start to stop burnout. That's the best way I have of putting that. And pull ourselves out of it to a point where our work-life balance is healthy. that's all I have. And I hope that you've taken one or two things from it. And if you have, this is the ending line of all of my sessions I ever do. Take one piece of information from this and go and share it with one other person and ask them to do the same. Because if we all do that, at some point, we'll start to get the message out that mental health and burnout and self-care are not buzzwords. They are vital, vital pieces of our lives. So I'm going to stop sharing, having mastered the technology enough to share that all with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Traci.
How do I stop it sharing? Share.
Sharing, so it's not going to tell me. But usually by the share button, there's a drop down.
Yeah. Presenter mode, blah.
Let me see if I can cut yours.
Yeah, cut me off, please. Make it go
I don't
away.
think I can. There we go.
Yay!
Now it's your regular screen.
There we go. That's better. See, I can talk about mental health. I can't make my MacBook behave the way it's supposed to behave.
Yeah, yeah. You had some really great points. I didn't realize like our diets were so, I thought that was just my diet.
No,
I realize like it's an industry standard.
It is like to put us in that top 5. And when you, the other 4 are paramedics, firefighters, doctors, and farmers. That puts us in a really horrible place that we should know better than.
I was literally eating a Twizzler when you said that. Like, oh wow. Wow.
I love that it's something that people are starting to take notice of. And the fact that I had a dietitian doing a session at Sequel Bits was fabulous, because I mean, she had all this fascinating information about how the prevalence of type 2 diabetes in IT industry is, so much percentage higher than in every other sort of walk of life. And quite a lot of us do have to admit to a bit of a caffeine addiction as well, because I have a sign on my office wall that says I exist on sarcasm and caffeine, and it's accurate. It's also really unhealthy.
Curious. I wonder if some of it has to do with us having a higher rate of neurodiversity than other, and that leading to it.
Absolutely. So I'm in the process of putting together a new session about neurodiversity and ID. Stack Overflow did a survey, and of everybody that Stack Overflow surveyed and asked, they came back and they reckon the prevalence of neurodivergence in IT is 42% higher than any other industry, which makes such logical sense, because autism and coding do kind of go hand in hand, because you have to be that pedantic and that precise to be good at writing code.
Yeah. You also get like the dopamine hit for ADHD people. So you're like, oh, totally. It's not working. Wait, I gotta finish it. Oh, it hit. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And if you start to have a team where you know that dopamine hit for those neurospices will thrive in a crisis, and then you bring back the autistic people who come back in and go, okay, so now the crisis is averted, now I can be logical and make this happen. You then provide a quiet room with no stimulation for them to go and recover. You actually start to bring out the best of all of those neurodivergences in such a way that I hate the use of the word superpower, referring to the isms and alphabet soup, because a superpower suggests it is just something massively positive, and it's not, because there's always a flip side to all of those superpowers. But I am really passionate about this whole how to manage putting a team together to build on neurodiversity in such a way that every part of that team thrives and has the environment and the support to be amazing at the things they're amazing at and be supported at the things they're not. That from the outside looking in as a non-tech PM is just, that's the way forward. So
That's good stuff. I love it.
I did say that there was going to be lots of cliches. It was going to be very obvious, and I'm still confident that there are points in time when you were eating a Twizzler, you went, oh shit, yeah, that's me. That there were points in that where people actually looked at it and went, yeah, that's a bit obvious. Hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the menopause masking finally being recognized is
massive, but I also wonder if it's a result of, when we were younger, especially in IT, I remember one guy saying like, oh, I don't know why he was telling me this because was there, but he's like, yeah, I usually don't hire women on my team because, we might need middle of the night calls and they have children and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God. So I wonder if some of the menopausal masking is because we start to worry like, oh, will I lose my job because they'll think she can't do her job. And then I can't get another one because then people are thinking, well, she's at that age and she might.
Yep. It is all of that.
Circular problem.
We're trying to undo several decades of societal non-acceptance of the fact that women's things aren't just women things, they're for everyone. And I object so massively to the, oh, well, she's a woman, at that age, she'll have kids, so she'll be that at this age, she's going to be menopausal, so I won't hire. Or I hate that. I hate it with a passion. So the fact that it has finally been officially recognised as an issue is huge. Yeah. But then I'm in equal parts annoyed that it has to be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's funny because it does have overlap with ADHD. So I already have things in place. So when I see other women going through that brain fog, I'm like, you just have to set up a bunch of things and then you're fine. Mm-hmm. You just have to get into certain routines. And I really wonder if some ADHD techniques, they employed it premenopausal time.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think all of it comes down to that communication.
Yeah.
And we're all pretty good at it. The men in IT are less good at it. Neurospices are really not good at it. So we have a bit of an uphill struggle, but every time we start a conversation about any of these things, I think it's a step in the right direction.
Love it. Thank you so much. Wonderful things all around.
Thank you so much for presenting today. This was wonderful and definitely one of those sessions that we all need more of, and the reminders of everything. So thank you so much for taking the time and presenting today.
It's my pleasure. I don't normally do virtual because I like to be able to be in the room with people, but this one, I was quite happy to make an exception for this because this is special.
And we appreciate it and appreciate you.
Thank
and appreciate everyone who is here today to